Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Anne Pinkava, joined as always by the lovely Deplorable Knitter.
Hi, everyone. So, Anne, what have we got going on this week?
Well, I don't have a lot of new knitting. I'm still working on the reclaim hat pattern. There's a lot of that going on. See, I think the pattern is thoroughly done. I'm at the point of making sure math and grammar and everything is finely tuned. Had someone sent me a couple mistakes today, so that's okay. I never said my grammar was perfect, but it's good to have good grammar, you know.
It is. And like, it's always the silly things in patterns. Like one of my last color work patterns, I said, you need two contrasting colors. Well, you didn't. So then everybody's like, well, what other contrasting color do I need? It's just a typo. It's okay. But that stuff makes a big difference if you don't have it right. People are going, but what do you mean? What should I have?
Well, and part of it was because it's sort of like a gears to English audiences. I'm like, so if anyone's in England and wants to look it over and make sure, because there's different terminology that you have for different knitting patterns. I'm like, okay, so to make sure that there's nothing like, well, and some sort of cultural thing, it's like, no, that's fine. Your grammar's wrong. Universally, you shouldn't have used an apostrophe there. Like, okay.
Did you have to put colors in with an O-U-R?
No.
Oh.
Well, one of them, it was seam, and I had spelt it. I have to remember if I had spelt it with two E's or with an E and an A, and it was the wrong one. And he's like, is this like a English American thing? I'm like, no, that's just a wrong thing. I'll fix that.
Well, at least you have somebody to ask, right? I mean,
right, someone to be like,
than...
yeah, instead of just leaving that in there. But anyways,
and testers don't always notice that stuff either. So it's not a terrible idea to have somebody like read it just to make sure that like words make sense.
Right.
Like, should all of these words be in this order in this sentence? So.
Right. But
cool.
I do have pictures in there for the modified intarsia, and people seem to be getting what I'm saying, which is most important. Because also we've been talking about and promoting. I did this video about intarsia. Isn't that going to be great? We're going to put that out, and there's no sound.
Yeah, I went to edit it last week. And I'm just thinking it's quiet because she's setting up and everything. And then all of a sudden her hands are like pointing at things. And I can tell that there should be sounds. Like she's got her hat and she's kind of doing this. And I'm like, oh no. And like I fast forwarded and I tried different headphones and I tried without headphones. And I'm like, yeah, this is bad.
I know. And part of it too is that I had like 3 different intarsia projects to show different things. And I'm like, if I reshot the video, I would have to cast on projects to show what I'm doing. And not only that, but I would have to, or we could edit the video and I could dub over what I'm saying and just hope that it also makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other tech issue and everything else.
It's hard to edit though, seeing as it's hard to do that because I'm in New York, she's in South Dakota. And really, since she doesn't know how to edit it, I would have to do it, but you would have to be able to see what I'm doing. And I don't even think that's possible.
I don't know. It'd be a headache.
I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe your brother will edit it for us.
Maybe I'll ask the more tech savvy.
And then you can dub it at your house, which would at least be better.
Right.
I would hope, because you could see what you were doing.
Right.
I mean, I can put words over it, but that doesn't.
You're just like blah 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 ginger. Like, that's not what I said.
Oh, look, Anne has some blue yarn here. Oh, look, she's gonna make a little bow with it, and then she's gonna. Like, I have no idea how to do intarsia. I can't.
Like, I don't know what you're
Never
doing.
gonna.
I need the
She has
word.
nice fingers.
Well,
We got that Vanna White thing going on. That's what I caught from the video. There was a lot of like, well, not like in a bad way, but you know, she had the Betsy flag and she's pointing at the sides of it, and
right,
obviously there was a conversation about something. I just don't know what it was.
right.
So yeah, and
And
if
the thing is that I filmed it in such a stupid way too, because I was trying to get a camera over top of my hands to film it and I couldn't do it. So I had filmed it with my phone and I had rubber bands and I taped my phone around books and then leaned forward with the books in front so it would be like over throwing my hands, and not a method I would recommend. And also apparently the sound doesn't pick up.
well, if you were leaning over it, you might have been covering the speaker or something,
Probably.
the microphone.
Probably.
But then again, if I had edited it, I don't know, in January when she had taped it, we would have known this was going on. But I tend to be a procrastinator, and if I don't have to do something, I don't always do it. So don't know, guys.
Well, it's all right. I'll get it together and so that. But anyways, also in knitting world, and I should also say that part of the reason why I keep knitting these hats is not because they're necessary or even really wanted, but because I am stress knitting over politics. Straight up, I'll admit it. Secondly, I don't want to cast on my new sweater because then I'll have to sit down and do math. And the lack of math is what I'm really digging about this. So last one, I'm quitting, I'm spinning yarn, I'm doing a plain garter stitch blanket, I'm doing something, but I'm done with this project. But last week I complained about the yarn for this hat, that I was knitting it and it was fluffy and hairy and I wasn't into it. And I should have just used my own hand spun anyways, because why do I have to, why have to deal with problems in someone else's yarn instead of my own? So here is my own hand spun. Woohoo. Also do the multicolor thing. Yay.
It's a lot. Fun. Very nice.
But comparatively, between the two, I don't know how texture you can see, but this is my hand spun on this side.
And I can't really tell much of a difference.
It's almost nothing, except mine is less fuzzy. And again, you can't feel textures, but it is much softer. There's a little lumpiness in it because I'm not an awesome spinner, but it's like, well, thanks for wasting my time. Anyways, not to be too disillusioned by my own pattern, but I do this a lot. I mean, I did this with the Israeli beanie where I just like stacked them. And by the end of it, I'm like, yeah, I'm not that I won't, I will never ever make them again. If somebody wants them, whatever, but it's the grab a hold of idea and then like a terrier, how they shake something until it's dead. Like, I'm going to take this concept and I can take it for as long as possible, shake it a bit, and then like, yeah, I'm done now.
So do we know what sweater you're trying to cast on or talking about casting on? Is it the undesirable?
Yes, it's the undesirable #1 sweater that, again, I'm hoping to cast on. Hopefully I'm not just promoting this to have it fall through, but I really like the idea. Not only just with the whole Trump sweater thing, but I have the yarn all figured out, so it's going to be in different shades of dark gray and navy and have sort of large stripes on it. So again, hopefully I'll have something to show to the class, but otherwise.
Yes, Anne, please bring something new next week because we've all seen the reclaimed hat. Exactly. And even though it's fabulous.
Exactly. It's starting to drag a bit. I get that.
No, I think it's awesome. And like I said last week, I like it a lot more with the two colors than when you sent me the picture. Like when you hold it up in front of here, it's way better than that. Like, I don't know why. For some reason, the picture just didn't come through.
Exactly.
But it's nice.
Like, woohoo. Here's so many of these. It's really painful. And for this one in particular, though this is like a dark navy blue with a red. And I said before, didn't like this on the website, but it's workable. I like it. Anyways,
cool.
more importantly, what have you been making?
Well, I'm glad to report that my thumb is mostly healed. There's one spot that's really not yet, but it's mostly okay. So I started my round 2 socks for Sock Sanity, and they're not very far. There's a lovely little rainbow black and whatever cuff, and this pattern, I think I have to do, for the contest, you have to have at least 25 rounds of the pattern. So I think I've got like 8 more rounds to do before I can start the heel flap.
Right.
But I'm certainly going to get at least 1 heel flap done tonight, because if I don't, my mother-in-law's birthday is Saturday, and then Sunday is Easter. And as I was telling Anne, unfortunately, one of the places that I work at, it's a rental, and they have guests leaving on Sunday and new guests coming on Sunday. So it's Easter, and in between that, I have to work in cleaning.
Right.
So I'm going to be short on time. So I've got to if I could get both heel flaps done today, that would be killer, but let's not be crazy. But they're due, the round ends on Monday, so I don't have a lot of time left to finish.
Right.
And I think I have to knit around, but I think I'm supposed to do around 6 inches for the foot to make it the proper size. So that's a lot of knitting. And everybody was, I gotta say though, I had so many people telling me how terrible this rib pattern is, because it's a rib, but some of the knits are knit through the back loop, and then there's some parts where you knit and some where you knit purl. And so like I was prepped for this to be like the worst thing ever, but I memorized it almost immediately, and now that I've got enough knit, I can read it. Right. So it's pretty, and the fact that there's a slip stitch by these, there's a whole bunch of markers in here, but every stitch by the marker is a slip. Right. So 1 round you knit, 1 round you slip. So now that I've got it established, it's so easy to be like, hey, what row was I on? Oh, okay. So, right. But I went into this terrified because everybody's like, it's so hard. And I'm like, oh God, I'm never going to finish.
Oh no, will I make it? Like, okay, actually.
Yeah. But I was telling Nan before we started that I'm not going to be a sock knitter. Like, I don't foresee me being like the person who is pushing out tons and tons and tons of socks, but I do understand why people do them, and I may contemplate having a pair on my needles for like that in between time, when like, especially because when I'm designing, I don't always know what I need to work on next, or ideas haven't fully formed, and so sometimes I just need something for my hands to do. And so I might be a person that has them in their knitting bag just for like those situations, but I haven't decided yet. We'll have to see.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, because there's been a few times lately where I've been in between designs and I've been like not sure what to work on, and my husband's like, hey, let's go out to the beer store. If you follow me on Instagram, everybody knows that that's where we go for our dates. We go out to the beer store like once a week. We have a couple beers. I knit, and I went to the beer store like twice this last month without a project. And I found that totally unacceptable. So we'll have to see if we can fix that.
Right.
So, but that's all I know about it. And I don't have any new patterns coming along. Totally slicing my finger last week really put a damper on all of my stuff, because I just a couple days ago, I was able to start knitting again. So right. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. So that's what I got, Anne.
Yep, you jumped back into Sock Sanity injured, but still game to go.
Well, yeah, and I think there's something about doing it with a group of people that makes it more fun. I think if I was knitting these by myself, I would lose interest and wander away. But the deadline, I need a deadline. I need somebody looking over my shoulder saying, hey, are you going to do that? Kind of like you and your Intarsia video I finally went to edit But it took a lot of her saying, "Hey, are you going to do that though?" for me to even try. So, whoops.
That's all right. We'll figure something out.
But yeah, so that's what I know about. I know about socks.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a lovely documentary about Audrey Hepburn this morning while I was knitting them.
Oh,
so much about her I didn't know, but
oh yes.
It's called Audrey on Netflix if anybody wants to check it out. I liked it. I might go watch like a Funny Face. Is that one of her movies with Fred Astaire? It is something like that. So yeah, I've never seen it. So, you know, that's what's going on here. Not much.
Part of my week was I watched the newest Emma movie, and I was so upset.
Emma,
like Jane Austen's Emma.
Yeah. I didn't know a new one came out.
Oh, it did. It would be probably last year it came out.
Okay.
So, and it was so frustrating because the entire point of the movie is the costumes. The costumes are like, catch your breath, beautiful throughout the entire thing. And every scene, Emma has a new dress on, and it's fantastic. And there's, several different incredible things, but part of the humor and the play of Jane Austen movies is that it's a comedy of manners. And it was like the entire point of this movie was to emphasize how rich everyone was and how many servants they had at all times, and that, they couldn't put their stockings on by themselves. And it was to like overemphasize the wealth of these people. And it felt like they were new money, that they were just like flashing all of their wealth back and forth between each other. And that it was just frankly unattractive people, like inside and outside, in very pretty dresses. And that there was no like accomplishments, that they had no actual skills of their own, that they were not better mannered than anyone else. And, part of the story of Emma, when you meet people who are very ill-mannered, that they you can tell in the plot line very quickly. And because everyone was so ill-mannered anyways, that they either like screeched or honked at each other, and that's how you knew that they were ill-mannered. And I'm like,
I've read the book. I don't think there's other movies that have been done of it, and I don't know that I've ever seen any of them.
Right. There was, Gwyneth Paltrow did one that was nice. Let's see, I'm trying to remember the name of the actress who did one more recently. Because the Mr. Knightley in the other one was the same guy who's in Elementary. But anyways, that having like the only likable character at the end of this entire story was Mr. Knightley, and that was just like bare bones. His character is so likable. It came out in the end. But yeah, I didn't particularly believe that Emma and Knightley were in love. There was a lot of there was a couple longing looks, but in the end, the beautiful proposal was just them yelling at each other. I'm like, well, this is just dumb. And the only time she brought a basket to anyone was to apologize, which is not Emma's character. And there was like this bizarre ascribing of motives to different characters throughout the movie that they didn't have in the book. You could have implicated that they had those motives, but that wasn't like the end. It was so bad. And the music was terrible. And nothing made sense. It was a poorly constructed movie, again, with just beautiful clothes. But
that's interesting. I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen any of them. I might go watch it because I don't know. I don't know if I've talked about it much, but in a former life, I used to make wedding gowns. And I used to make formal wear. And so I like to watch things with very lovely clothes because I despise sewing. Like, I know some people are like all about like quilting and I'm going to sew this and I don't like to sew, probably because I did it for brides who are crazy, and it makes you just wish that you were never learned how to, which is how I feel about it. So, but I do love a good costume, so maybe I'll just mute it. Maybe I'll
maybe.
make the kids watch it for school. Maybe I can make it be some sort of educational. Look at
Well,
this.
look at this, kids, and the kids are like, I don't get it. Or do it's like, okay, I'll probably, if we've got some hot takes today that I think the 2005 Pride and Prejudice is also horrendous. The with Keira Knightley, it is so bad.
Yeah.
You
No,
have for that one, you have really great music, but I'm sorry, but neither Elizabeth or Mr. Darcy are peasants. So yeah, in that era, not only could they afford to wash themselves and their clothes, but they could also like use a hairbrush. It's amazing, but trust me, it happened.
now see, we don't talk about movies much, but my favorite actor is Colin Firth,
Oh yes.
who is an English actor. And so my favorite Pride and Prejudice is the one where he is in it.
Oh yeah. Oh, I
That's
do.
old. Like, right? Isn't that from like the 90s or something?
95,
At
I believe.
least the best.
No, he is the best.
Although he didn't age well, unfortunately. I really do feel sad about that because he was so handsome in like the 2000s, and I don't know exactly. Well, I mean, he's like 60 now, so I guess that's what happened. But
Right.
anyway.
No, but the difference between the two, where you could have like, it's throwing away the idea that civility of manners can be like an everyday thing. Like, I'm not just putting on a face because I'm, trying to be fancy, but it's like, no, people are actually courteous towards each other and it's part of the thing. And, that it's really, it's incredibly frustrating. And then you have, and part of the 1995 Pride and Prejudice is that you could show the manners because people were well mannered, that you could show that when there's social faux pas because you had sort of a glass to look at it in, that you could see that everyone is behaving well except for you, and it wasn't just everybody's a mess and we have to be ultra obnoxious when we can.
What you're saying about manners and the fact that there aren't as many now, that's a really interesting insight. I don't know if I would have like caught on to that, but it's true. Things are so different from, I mean, I was young in the 90s, you were born in the 90s, and from even then to now, the way things have changed is just ridiculous. And so how do you portray these genteel manners and ways of acting when nobody does that anymore? It's foreign.
Right.
So,
and you mentioned Audrey Hepburn, and Audrey Hepburn, who she was a ballerina throughout her young life, but she was incredibly graceful. She was very thoroughly a lady. And then, she goes into acting and that comes out in what she does. That, here you have her as an epitome of lady for a reason. That, and it's kind of like with La La Land a couple of years ago, that it was a combination. I don't know if you saw La La Land.
I did not.
Okay.
I never have.
It was a combination of, they're like, oh yes, isn't this beautiful? This is old Hollywood romance. And I'm, first of all, that it wasn't a happy romantic ending. Not that all movies have to be, but it's like, this is like an old Hollywood romance musical. I'm like, yeah, but it's not though. And also that the actors didn't do their own dancing. And that you just don't. You don't have that skill. You have Fred Astaire, who, when he did a movie, insisted that the entire dance routine was done in one take because he wanted to prove that they didn't cut this together. No, I actually have the capability to do this dance routine in one take. And with him and Ginger Rogers especially, that this was very important to him, that they were incredibly skilled dancers and that they had sort of the ability and sort of the joy, and that it's like that I say, like in Swing Time, which is one of the big Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movies, that there's many dance numbers. There's many, that's where I suddenly can no longer remember the set list of Swing Time. But anyways, that you have so many, that this is such an epitome of, skill and entertainment and happiness. And that you have now our movies are very cynical, that we don't have anyone who can do the skill, and because we don't have anyone who can fill those certain skill sets, we must assume that they don't exist. And they're like, ooh, that's not a happy place for anyone to be in.
No, that's interesting. And when I was watching the documentary today, I believe it was Audrey herself who was saying how, like from an interview, it was a clip of her saying how terrified she was to dance with Fred Astaire, because she trained as a ballerina, but she did not have the skill set that he had, and having to work with him was like terrifying. It was just something that was so out of her comfort zone, even though she was a trained dancer. And I thought that was really interesting, because I don't know, like you said, there's just nobody who fills these things anymore. It's everything's crap nowadays. Yeah, so maybe Anne and I'll start putting in book reviews and things. Hey, have you started the Hunger Games yet?
No.
If you're like avoiding stuff, at least get the Hunger Games.
I'm avoiding everything.
Right. Well, you should listen to and or read. That was one of the ones where the narrator was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Some books that I listen to, I don't like the narrator, and it makes it very difficult.
Well, I guess I haven't been avoiding exactly everything, because I've, instead of listening to the Hunger Games or anything else, I'm re-listening to Jane Eyre, which I always enjoy.
That is nice. I've been on a kick of non-fiction books lately, but it's non-fiction about stuff that I don't know anything about, so it reads like fiction.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, that stuff is so interesting. The one I just finished was The Secrets We Kept, and it's about secretaries in a typing pool at a government agency, and some of them were like carriers during the Cold War, and some of them were like informants, and it was really interesting. It had a lot to do with Dr. Zhivago, which I've never read, but now I feel like I might. And then there was this other one I read called The Real Lolita, and the book Lolita, which is very controversial even now. But there was a little girl who was abducted in the 40s, and a lot of the story of Lolita was based on that. So it's very interesting stuff. But my library doesn't have Lolita. I'm not able to get it. And I can only get the Cliff Notes version of Dr. Zhivago on audiobooks from my library. So I'm somewhat disappointed in them at the moment. Because I would probably listen to both, but I can't seem to get my hands on them. So
right. Oh, that's
if anybody has a source for audiobooks that's not the library, drop it in the links so that Anna and I can find it, because that'd be cool.
Great.
Okay, I'll stop ranting about books and movies. So was there anything that you had that you wanted to bring up? Or it's been kind of quiet on your end this week?
Well, quietish. Like I said, in British news, I don't know what's happening in British news. This is how bad I just blank. Anyways, in British news, England has opened up from lockdown provisionally. And Matt Hancock, health secretary, has walked out and said that, yes, we're open, but we're not that open, make sure to be careful and everything. And my favorite reply from Lawrence Fox was, thanks, already have a dad. Bye.
That's awesome, because that's what it is. It's like they're trying to parent us.
I know. And there was another, I forget who this lady was. She was government regulation somewhere. And it was basically, don't you dare even think, even dream of traveling. And I'm like, What if I do though?
What, are you gonna ground me?
Like,
Are you gonna take my phone away? Come on, what's gonna happen?
exactly. They're going to take my phone away or lock me in my room. And I'm like, I don't see the difference between your policy already and locking me in my room. Like, I was already grounded, not
Yeah,
necessarily me, but the peoples of the world have been grounded. And crazy.
no, it is crazy. Um,
And that's one of the things too that I feel like I need to, we need to wake up every morning and we have to look out through the land and we have to realize that this is stupid and this is not how free people live every single day. Never forget it. There is no
yeah,
new normal of anything. This is dumb.
well, at least you're not in New York,
Yeah.
because I don't know if our friends have heard, but our illustrious governor has come out with the Excelsior pass. Excelsior definition. I'm just thinking, ever upward, ever upward. So he's moving us ever upward into socialism with his Excelsior pass, which you have to show to get into certain venues and different things, proving that you've either had a vaccine or a negative COVID test.
Ah, that will
Ah,
never.
it started on Friday in New York, and I think maybe mostly the city. I haven't heard anything about it upstate at all, but I assume it's gonna move its way up here. I don't know. I don't plan on getting the vaccine personally. I don't know. I don't know anything. But yeah, so ever upward towards our rights being taken away. We're moving right along with
Yeah.
pure Cuomo and um
You know, I don't get, I don't get, again, just sheer, I do not understand people who look at that and think it's a good idea. Like there's no level of, oh, well, that means that you're clean. And look, I know that Holocaust comparisons are overwrought. We use them all the time, and it's a serious thing and we shouldn't, focus. We shouldn't say that everything is the Holocaust because then nothing will be the Holocaust.
right.
But again, to continue to use this analogy anyways, um, that there was a lady in sort of upper class German society who was in the same social circles as Hitler. Okay, and they asked her after the war, how did this happen? Like, how did you go along with it? How did you believe all that Hitler was saying? And she said that part of it was that Hitler convinced her and everybody else that the Jews and other people were unclean and therefore, should be essentially exterminated. And I hate saying this, but if you put this like disgust barrier between people, nice things aren't going to happen. Like you
Right.
can't, you don't like, oh well, I'm clean and you're not. Well, what that it's so stupid. And especially, you know, so I don't know if I mentioned on the show before, but that I did get COVID. I got the loss of smell thing, and this was a couple months back. But first of all, once I realized that I had lost smell, I just laughed my head off because this was it. This is what I was worried about. And again, I know other people get it, a lot more severe reactions than others, but I'm just like, this was all this was this is just ridiculous. But again, I got it and then refused the vaccine. Well, you're unclean. Well, does it matter? Because I'm already have natural immunity. No, 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 you're out. Like this is
Yeah, there's no such thing as natural immunity anymore, Anne. I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
You are a science denier, obviously. And no, I just saw something this week that was talking about 80% of hospitalizations from COVID um, were people that are overweight.
Hmm.
And that I also saw that during the lockdowns, males there may have been an age range attached to it, like 30s to 40s, gained an average of 37 pounds during the lockdowns. But they're trying to tell us this stuff is about our health. Seems to me like if they let us go to the gym and promoted healthy eating and better habits, that it might make a difference. Although Anne mentioned it, we know that people get it badly. We know that that's not the case for everybody. Not everybody who gets very ill from COVID is overweight, or well, a good majority are. I just don't want people to think that we're like brushing it off, because it's true.
Right.
Some people have gotten it very badly, and I don't think that they didn't.
And to step on all of the things, not only do we have, people who are overweight and reacted badly, or people who are vitamin D deficient, which also seems to be a big thing. But in addition to that, we have a record amount of vaccine injuries after this vaccine. So you might react poorly if you get COVID, or you might react poorly if you get the vaccination. But luckily, you can't sue anyone if you react poorly, because they put those safeties in.
I know. And the amount of vaccine reactions that I've seen people talking about that have suddenly disappeared is just amazing. Where do all these stories go? What happens to them? What happens to them, man?
I don't know. It's amazing. Wake up in the morning and people just aren't there anymore. Like Steve Crowder's YouTube channel. Though I think you can still look at old videos, but he can no longer post anything to either his main channel or his side channel. And if he does, they threaten to delete the whole thing because he's trying to circumvent the system.
Interesting. And why did he get blocked?
Steven Crowder, who has his Twitter taken down and then they don't give him a reason or give him his account back. And Twitter taking down and YouTube taking down his video for a month-old video, where the one where he went around to different voter addresses and said, yeah, this isn't a real address, Google Earth. This is where the house is supposed to be, and you can see the one house number and you can see a second house number, and there's nothing. There is no house here. This is a field. This is an underpass. This is no one's address.
He got in trouble for that?
Yes, but
wow.
There's brand new policies everywhere, including YouTube, the presidential election interference policy.
Oh God, are we going to get in trouble?
Well, we're on Rumble. Let's promote that. Find us on Rumble. No, but it's you're making up policies and you're making up rules, and when people even try to follow your rules exactly, then you harass them more and invent new ones.
You know what? I just saw that YouTube is talking about taking away the dislike option, like showing the dislike numbers. And I heard, and I don't know if this is true or if it was just people talking, that it has to do with the fact that the president's videos get so many dislikes that they're going to take it away.
Well, and that's the thing though.
I don't know if that's true, but
well, I saw the statement, and it was, to help targeted campaigns that are against people, to help their mental health or whatever. And yeah, since Biden was inaugurated, his campaign videos have gotten more dislikes than likes by the thousands. And YouTube was caught bleeding the amount of dislikes, that the number of dislikes would go down quickly. And people were reporting on this as like, do your constitutional duty, guys. Go out there and dislike that YouTube video. And then they're like, you can't do that either. I'm like, dislike.
So
follow this page and dislike it.
But the most popular president ever elected has more dislikes than likes. I just don't understand how that could be, Anne.
I don't know how that could possibly be. I mean, I would think in the likes to dislikes world, it is not a perfect voting ratio, but I would think that so many people like this man that they would like the videos,
Right.
and listen to what he says. I mean, very edifying.
I I'm sorry, but it's just so ridiculous. And this is what our world has come to, that now we're worried about people's feelings being hurt by dislikes.
Right.
We've gotten dislikes. We've gotten called names on our YouTube channel.
Oh, certainly.
Whatever.
But also it's the internet, guys. We know how
We know that that's where the trolls live, under the bridge of the internet. So it is what it is.
Yep.
Now I want to know like how many dislikes his videos have, or maybe they're gone already. It's hard to say.
They're probably gone already.
Oh, nope, here's one. President Biden on COVID response and vaccination efforts has 119 likes and 729 dislikes. So
those are rookie numbers. Bet they deleted them.
And that's just the first video I clicked. So that's just I wonder if I can find another one. Just for curiosity's sake, to see if the second one also. It isn't easy to hang a close sign on a dream. That's what he said.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and that one has 731 likes and 3.4 thousand dislikes. I don't know why.
It's amazing. It's not easy to hang a closed sign on the dream. As always with Biden, you can have all of these beautiful emotional responses. And what are you doing? Oh, well, we're doing a rescue plan. Yeah, how much rescue is in that, buddy boy?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't even know about the rescue plan. I, on purpose, don't listen to half the stuff anymore because I would just be a sad shell of my former self if that was what I did. Oh, well. Sorry.
Anyways, but coming back around to vaccine passports, I say just say no. And that is, look, okay, everyone is free to make their own choice about the vaccine. Okay, if you think it's medically good or medically bad, do the research, do what you like. All right, but whatever you do, do not think that the vaccine or the vaccine passport is actually going to give you any freedoms.
Right. And it's seriously disturbing that they're like, oh, well, you want to go to and they're talking about smaller venues now. So it's not just like, Madison Square Garden in New York City. They're talking about like, my local theater.
Right.
Well, lucky for me, I don't ever feel like spending $20 a person on a movie, but I guess it doesn't matter if I wanted to because I'm not gonna anymore. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, I love a movie. Unfortunately, there hasn't been much playing lately, but I love going to the theater.
I do too, but my point is that there's nothing that I mean, if they say I can't go to the supermarket with that one, I will move. Like there's nothing that they can tell me I have to have it for that I will. It's so important to me that I will cave and get it, I guess is my point.
And there's many people, and I just find this surprising, and I don't know. And again, many people, they have different medical conditions. They don't want to risk it. I understand that. But it was a woman's Instagram post and like, woohoo, I'm getting my vaccination. And once I get my second one, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to go see a movie in person. I'm going to go to Hobby Lobby. And one of them was that they wanted to go to like a theme park or something too. And like down the list of these incredibly like, wow, these are things that after the first blush of the pandemic, I was doing all the time. And, again, more stuff like this, the more I am tempted to just be flippant. Like every day COVID doesn't kill me, the greater my disappointment rises. if we're shutting down for this, why didn't I die?
Well,
please kill me sooner. And again,
I don't
like, oh, well, that's horrible and flippant and people have died. I get it. But like people who haven't gone to the store in person, people, and again, your health is your own and it is your own responsibility to do things in the best way that you can, okay, for your own health and safety. I don't know, it's weird. And the vaccine is it's a 95% chance that it works. And there's been enough people who have had problems with the vaccine, or that there are people who have got the vaccine and then got COVID. Like,
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I got an immune system. God gave it to me. I'm a fairly healthy person. And I don't want people to think I'm flip about any of this, because actually, like, when everything started a year ago, we ordered our groceries online. We all stayed home. We social distanced from our families until we had, like, my father, he sells beer. He was considered essential, so he never stopped working.
Right.
We only saw him when we could social distance from him, until we really got a handle on what was going on. So I don't want people to think like, oh, well, you guys are just a bunch of naysayers. I did everything. My husband was very, very specific about how he wanted us to handle it, and I followed his lead.
right.
And then after about 6 months, I was like, dude, we cannot live like this forever, so let's move on. You know what I mean?
No, and that's the thing though, because also, I mean, I worked throughout this whole thing, and very lucky to do so. But because my job requires me to interact with people, like, okay, and then my job required me to interact with people before we had a mask mandate. So while we had at the point at time where we were still like a bit freaked out about this virus, and oh no, and the numbers were coming out of Italy, and we're like, wow, this is so terrible, I can't believe it. We were worrying about ventilators. We were watching the Trump press conferences like it was the new greatest daytime TV show, and all of this was going on, and we were paying attention, and we were concerned, and we were careful, and everything else. And then, oh, things are getting better. Oh, this isn't the Black Plague, it turns out. It's not even the gray plague or the beige plague. It's sort of the mediocre plague. And
yeah, no,
and all of that. And then once we were like, oh, okay, so again, this is still something to be concerned about, but not like totally freaked. It was at that point that the local mask mandates came into place, and I'm like, this is the dumbest city council. Why? It's the ultimate hick thing, that you have to have the things that the cities have, but only after they're proved ineffective. Only after it's gone out of style. But no, we're gonna mask up forever. Oh well, that's nice. I'm so glad that the Great Barrington Report exists for you to ignore it. Follow that science.
Yeah, no. Well, remember, you only follow the science when it confirms what you want it to. Otherwise,
you only follow the science when the science is ignoring the fact that Texas is actually doing better with COVID once it's lifted its mask mandate.
Right. But I think a lot of people know how we feel about COVID, so.
I know, we always go there.
And we never, I mean, okay, we were totally going to talk about the passport thing today, the Excelsior pass. Yeah. But I don't think we meant to quite get into COVID as we have, but it is what it is. But the numbers about how much weight people have gained, because I've kind of made it a joke that I gained my COVID-19, but right. I really did. It like, the freshman 15, I totally gained my COVID-19. Oh. And so did my husband. I mean, right. Our kids are still fine, but they're kids and they're insane and they're running around all the time. But right.
I mean, I'm sure my jawline proves that, yeah, I me too.
No, seriously, that's one of the things I noticed from our first episodes to now. I noticed that I've gained weight in my face, and it's, and I think that the fact that they're not taking that part of people's health seriously is concerning. Mm-hmm. Why aren't they? They're putting out these magazine covers with, extremely overweight people on it, saying this is healthy, and this is. Why aren't they saying, make sure you're eating your fruits and vegetables, make sure you're getting out and taking walks, make sure you're, not baking and eating all the cookies in one day. But they're not. They're get your vaccine and get your passport, and this is the new healthy, and it's very strange.
As we have said from the beginning, that stress and loneliness are the two most unhealthy things, that they're bad for mental health and for physical health. That if you're stressed and you're lonely, that does not only does that create health problems in itself, but it contributes to eating the entire thing of cookies. It contributes
right.
to,
No, and it's, yeah, I don't know. It's it seems to me almost like they're not that concerned about our actual health, which is disconcerting.
No, just concerned about the outer trappings of being concerned about your health. And
Right. But
if you can, enforce your will on other people, well, that's the most fun thing. If you can do it because you're the good guy, even better.
I don't know the answer, but I can tell you that the kids and I are baking cookies today.
Oh man.
And I will strive not to eat them all, but there are no guarantees because they're cookies. And I got nothing else.
Man, now I want cookies.
So guys, next week, I think we have a guest next week. I know I said it last week, but this time I kind of forgot to reach out until yesterday. And surprising, they weren't available with like 16 hours notice. So, so next week we're gonna have Chicken Lady join us, I believe, if that all works out. And so make sure you join us. I'm sure she'll have lots of fun things to say. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.
Yep. And also, again, don't forget to check us out on Rumble also, because YouTube's fun. Simply Incorrect Knitters, no space. You're searching for us.
Yes. And as of now, the link is still in the description, so you can find us.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you next week.